Jumbo Blockchain.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today, and it is my absolute pleasure and honor to be in such an august company. So a lot has been said. Of course, Dr. Satya talked a lot about blockchain and everything, so we'll probably try and build on that, if there is anything to build at all. So let me start with a quick round of introductions. So I'll invite Mr. Chenoy first to maybe give a quick introduction, and then we'll get into the discussions.
So I'm Dilip Chenoy. I currently chair the Bharat Web3 Association.
Thank you, sir.
Sachin Gupta. I'm the Chief Information and Innovation Officer for Usha International. Prior to Usha, I worked for Havels. Before that, I was with Times Group. Prior to that, I spent almost 7 years in Microsoft. And before that, I was in the US for about 17 years. I worked for Toyota, Cardinal Health, Deloitte, and so on and so forth in IT.
Prashant Choudhary, Director of SNPC Consultants, and I'm an ex-banker, and we are a financial and business consultant working in a different technology and a part of the PE fund also.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Akash Agrawal. I'm a consultant in Web2 and Web3. So maybe I'll pick up where Dr. Satya left. So we talked about the early days of internet, the read, the write, and what we're seeing right now is in terms of own. So there was democratization of information when we go back to 1990s. Then we saw democratization of publishing in a way where everybody became a content creator and you were able to upload it. And now what we're seeing is the next round of digital transformation where you are able to actually own that particular content. Hopefully so, as we go along ahead. So my first question to you, Dr. Chenoy, here today is, this digital transformation that is hitting us today, and almost every industry is getting impacted by it or has an opportunity to get into it. So what would be your advice? How should these different industries, maybe you want to pick one or two, and just comment as to how they could adapt and evolve within this specific area and derive value out of this?
So thank you, and first of all, I'd like to congratulate Sachin and the entire family. And it's good to see, family backing a person who's already had 3 failures in life and, going there. So I think it's congratulations to him and the team and the co-founders. And thank you everyone for actually joining in celebrating this moment with the family and him. You asked a kind of question that how would this Web3 impact different types of industry, right? Or different sectors, or how would blockchain, right? There are different aspects. Web3 is consisting of different technologies and different use case scenarios, right? I think to talk of artificial intelligence and blockchain, you had a live case study, a ready book, right? Which is going to transform, and it's actually applications in recognition of prior learning and other aspects of what is happening in the National Education Policy 2020 are far greater than just verifying, credentials. So in any case, so what is so special about this? So you have multiple users, all of us whose credentials there. Multiple people need to see our data, and multiple people need to verify the data. And the data should be accessible to a whole universe, right? So any application, right, that requires the following 4 conditions to be fulfilled is a very good application for using blockchain and artificial intelligence, and whether it's supply chain, whether it is billing, right, whether it is carbon credits. You can take any sector, pharmaceutical products, cold chain validation, food products, agriculture products, validation of sourcing, sustainability. You take the sector, it will actually have that. Reward points are going to be changed by a combination of blockchain and NFTs. Today, if you have a reward point for one particular, let's say you have a reward point on retail chain, and I have a reward point on travel. I don't want to travel, but you want to travel, and I want to buy something from retail. Currently, we can't do anything unless I physically take you to the shop and get things done. But blockchain technology with NFTs and others will actually enable that to happen. Then the metaverse, which is the third element of the entire Web3 ecosystem for education and training. You can't train a person in a nuclear plant. It's impossible. Yeah. But you can create a digital twin and you can train a person. Doctors will practice surgery on virtual patients before going into surgery again. Education will be completely transformed and individualized using AR, VR, XR, etc. So you take the biggest application is which, all of us spend time on our mobile phones, right? We contribute to the economy of YouTube, Facebook, etc. We get a pittance, right? But with the democratization of Web3, soon Times will be paying you to read the newspaper, and sharing ad revenue with you rather than anything else. So X to earn is a big aspect for that. So it depends on the industry, depends. I mean, you name an industry, I can give you an application, but that's not the purpose for me.
No, absolutely. I think you bring up some amazing insights into how different industries can, benefit from that, and it's absolutely varied. And you're right, the take rates that we see today here in Web2 in terms of, what these content creators are getting is almost next to nothing. And that really is the most exciting aspect of what blockchain can enable. So maybe if you want to take up one thing and say that so we are seeing that adoption, but that the pace of adoption maybe is a little slow, maybe it can be a little faster. So what could be those one or two challenges which you think, maybe again we can pick up one industry and say, what is that challenge that really they need to sum out so that it gets into that point of inflection?
So I think today, and I was talking to Sachin earlier when we met in another occasion, the fundamental chain, right, to create a block, right? No chain today gives a SLA. So how do you build a product without an SLA, right? Second, the challenge here is that any blockchain or any system requires you to do validation through nodes. And when you have large systems using millions of transactions at the same time, the validation of nodes, I think I've run out of battery. Right? So validation of nodes consumes energy and takes time. So that, how do you speed that and reduce the energy consumption, right? And the third challenge in the whole, if I look at metaverse and look at other things, there is a need to actually create rules of the game. Okay, I'm not calling regulation. I mean, for example, and this was, Pawan Duggal, some of you may know him. He's a great IT lawyer. He said that if I go and do something to your avatar in metaverse, you're equally liable as if you've done it physically on the ground, but nobody knows it, right? So the whole regulatory framework and whatever happens, these are fundamentally the three challenges to actually scale this go far. And there are a lot of pilots, right? But how? And everybody is thinking of a killer app in a decentralized world. So what you go to any person and say, what's the application? They're looking at a UPI type of application, so many million users, so many billion transactions, but that's not how a decentralized world works, right? So the understanding of that, and therefore the kind of challenge there, and of course the whole thing of any token-based, chain being confused with investors, and that's the other aspect there.
Yeah, you're right. So actually, there are multiple challenges. I think.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
So may I add something out of it in a very lighter mode? However, I'm not a technical guy, but see, I would say like Kali Yuga is on. So people are losing trust in each other where that blockchain comes in. So it is all about trust.
Yeah. So we'll keep talking about, I think, trustless and permissionless transactions as we go, and that's what blockchain enables really, right? So, Sachin sir, coming to you. So you're now, I think, associated with the consumer durable industry for a long time. So I think that also presents a very great use case, I believe, from a blockchain perspective and across multiple domains or perspectives, even within consumer durables. So maybe if you would like to share a few thoughts from that industry-specific perspective.
Sure, thank you. and thanks everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know, after Dr. Chenoy spoke so much about blockchain and everybody else does, how much value can I add, but let me try. So I've been associated with consumer goods now for about 8 odd years. So Havells and then Usha, to a certain extent, we could also call Times Group had something to do with it. But if you seriously look at consumer good industry, one of the biggest challenges that we face, and Sachin talked about it, is counterfeiting, right? Which we deal with on a daily basis. Forget about daily, every minute basis, right? And especially when your brand gets big, there's very easy reasons and multiple reasons to start counterfeiting the product. And if you look at from a consumer angle, it becomes even more critical for a consumer to understand what's right, what's wrong. At your last, so if, since we're talking about chain, your last leg in the chain is a retailer, right? And a lot of times for a certain amount of small profit, they actually fall into that chain of counterfeiting. So that's the biggest use case in terms of how you can use blockchain, or a consumer can use blockchain to be able to get information about the product as to which is right, which is not. One other aspect of that is a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of you know that a lot of these products are also financed right at the retailer end by organizations like Bajaj Finance and so on and so forth, right? What could happen, and it does happen, that you learn, and there's a cost to the manufacturer in terms of selling the product on a finance, right? A lot of times you realize that you land up financing a counterfeit product, right? So there's a cost associated. So it's not only that the consumer is getting the wrong product with your brand on it, you're also landing up financing the wrong product, right? So there are plenty of use cases. A lot of us have put QR codes on it, but that's not 100% successful, right? They can also be counterfeited and so on and so forth. So I think that's the biggest use case. A lot of you might question or have a question as to why don't we use the technology, right? Actually, blockchain has been around for quite a while now, right? It's not being used. So in addition to what Dr. Chenoy said, let me add a business angle to it. The blockchain has not been successfully used for, I think, 2 reasons, and one being the predominant. The biggest reason was the financial aspect of it. The cost of getting an inquiry done was exorbitant, right? That Sachin and Jumbo team has answered, right? It's when I first heard about 6 paisa, it just blew my mind away. I said, how is that even possible? I've spent quite a number of discussions with now Sachin and trying to help them as much as I can. The second aspect of that was the cost of getting it going, right? Which was ridiculous. So a small organization, or even a large organization for that matter, it was very difficult for you to make that kind of an investment. What made it even more difficult, right? In a blockchain, before you can verify the information, it's all about sharing the information, right? When you start looking at consumer good industry or any other industry for that matter, it becomes extremely difficult for people to share information, right? So until an information is shared, either by a vendor or it gets into the data, that verification becomes impossible, right? So the cost of infrastructure, the cost of verification, the cost of query made it literally unusable, right? So now with Jumbo, I think at least 2 pieces of that is solved, Once the two pieces have solved and people start using it, it will become very easy for that third piece to automatically get solved. Because if I want to get benefit out of a technology or a vendor who's out there, right, I need to be able to share. And I'd be very willing to share, because at the end of the day, it's going to only help me, right? So I think that's the perspective, right? There's supply chain, I can go on and on and on, right? But that's, I think, counterfeiting that Sachin also talked about is the biggest use case that there is and could be useful. Because as a consumer, when you're buying something, you want to be 100% sure that it's original and what you're paying for is what you're getting out of it, right? So that's where.
Some amazing points there, sir. Actually, even I've spent about 15, 16 years within consumer durables, both on the brand side as well as on the retail side, and I totally resonate with what you're saying. So one, of course, from a counterfeiting side, then the finance angle of that, and then lastly, in terms of this entire value chain, the last person is the retailer. I mean, how does he even, operationalize it? And that is what the expectation is. And if you get into small appliances, I mean, it's a very large base. So maybe later on, and there's a way to tokenize and pass on some of those benefits to those retailers at a very minimal cost. And I think that's the barrier that you talked about. So if you're going to 5-6 paisas or nothing, that's actually next to nothing. So I think brands should really be able to adopt and move on from there.
And when you start looking at the cost, right, in terms of 5 paisa or 6 paisa, I hope he's able to bring it further down.
We can hold him for it.
Don't kill me. So, but if even at that price point, right, anybody who's buying a 1,500 rupees mixer, grinder, could still go back and not even think about it, right? When it was 6 rupees or 10 rupees, then you start thinking about, देख लेंगे यार जब होगा तब ही देखेंगे अभी तो ले लेते चलते. There's right. So there's certain amount of trust that we were talking about, you put in the retailer that at least he must have done his due diligence as he's selling. Otherwise, okay, bhag ke to ja nahi raha, will always come back to them, right? But this price point would really help.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll change gears a bit. Let's talk about sustainability, and I'll come to you, Prashant, for that. So historically, or no, actually not even historically, there's been a lot of discussions around blockchains being, extremely having a very poor impact or a very bad impact as far as environment is concerned. So what are your thoughts around that? I mean, what is the state of blockchain today, and how companies or these different blockchain developers or even organizations, when they are adopting blockchains, I mean, how they should be looking at it so that the environmental impact of that is minimized?
So, however, I'm a very financial guy, not a technical, but so I keep on exploring technology across the globe, keep on working in a different technology also. So out of these, recently I just share an experience. I worked with some the environment impacting technology like carbon capturing technology. Maybe we talk about CAS, compressed air energy storage solution, which is the replacement of the battery storage solutions, which is again comes under ESG model. Third, maybe we talk about the hydrogen technology, alkaline and PM, and number of other 2-3 technology or stock technology also there. That again comes under the ESG framework. So since I'm very keen to explore number of technology which are going on here and there. So in that case, first of all, we need to understand how the blockchain technology is impacting the environment. Since most of the people having the misconception, this is the ID kind of software technology is there and how it is impacting the environment. So I would say that it is highly electricity intensive technology, whereas the energy consumption is very, very high. And I would share a very interesting fact. When we were talking about like carbon capturing technology, then we had gone through a number of facts also. Whereas if you talk about India, 30% carbon is being emitted by the energy only. So it is a major part, which is the energy is playing very major part to pollute the environment. And when it comes to blockchain technology, whereas it's directly linked to the energy itself, and this is how the blockchain technology is impacting the environment. Now, when it comes to how to address these kind of issues, I believe there are these issues has to be addressed at a two front. One is at a energy level and another is at a technology level. So if we talk about the energy level, I think the renewable energy where the has to be used where the carbon emission is not there, and it has to be very cost effective also to make it viable. Second front, if we talk about, that is a technology front, whereas obviously the innovator have to work around in that, and whereas this has to be a lighter technology rather than a very heavy technology in terms of a consumption of energy, so that it could be viable and comparatively environment friendly because of energy efficiency. So since it is a energy intensive, I would say that it has to bring down from energy intensive to energy efficiency technology. This is what I would, quoting towards from my side for the innovators. And I'm sure the Jumbo Chain has worked on this particular part, whereas we are thinking of the light node, as Sir said, that we are talking about the pricing, low pricing, how the low pricing is working, because the energy which is being used as the major part of this technology is being reduced, and then accordingly the pricing is being lowering down. So I think this is how things can be worked out towards the sustainability and the environment friend.
Awesome. All right. So some great points there for people who are wanting to build into or incorporate blockchain. So consider those points there. Sorry. I'll come to your specific area now from a financial angle perspective. So we have probably about 2 billion unbanked people is what the number goes. There are multiple reasons for that. One of them is possibly the cost of entry into that financial system itself is very difficult, and then the cost of transactions, specifically if you talk of micropayments or microtransactions. So that is where blockchain actually comes in, which makes it permissionless as well as trustless. So what kind of economic disruption do you think this particular industry can expect with the further development of these technologies as we progress forward?
So it is, I think, as most of the people know, that blockchain has been very, very, innovative technology. However, it is not new, but there are new evolvement has happened in the last 15 years or maybe 20 years down the line. As far as the technology is concerned, that is very promising, but it has never been commercialized just because of the heavy, cost of the transactions. I'm sure Jumbo Chain will help to get this commercialized in the industry, and whereas we can bring down the cost of the transactions as well. Since we are talking about industry, there's no use case in the industry. I think that this one will bring the use cases in the industry itself. In the financial domain, I'm sure this is going to be very disrupting, because this is decentralized kind of technology, whereas no one is having a control in that. So it will eliminate a lot of intermediaries like banks, because it is enabling the peer-to-peer transactions. And I'm sure this will giving the apprehension to the bank itself how they are going to operate, and complete modus operandi of the working of the business model of the banking will change. So this is how it's going to disrupt the market. And this is if you talk about for example, cross-border transactions and remittances. As on date, there are a number of intermediaries, banks which are involved while making even a single transaction from one border to another border, right? And it takes 2 to 3 days to remit the money and to credit the money in another country, right? Which will actually, through blockchain, is possible within seconds. So this is how it will make complete change in that issue. Yes. Along with these kind of advantage, there may be some requirement of the regulatory framework, because it is going to challenge the regulatory framework also. Since as on date, whatever the existing framework in the banking sector or any financial sector does not support this kind of technology, whereas no control is there at all. So it is very, very important part to framework to the policymaker itself to how to control, and it should not be threatened for the country, because the money is not having, money trial is very, very critical and important to while money is being moving from one country to another country. So that is somewhere I believe a lot of policymakers are working on this particular field, because to regularize this kind of technology and to implement in the financial domain, because it is going to be very, very disruptive in financial domain specifically.
No, interesting. I think everything has two sides. So while it does help to a large extent in terms of getting people who are unbanked onto this particular system, but at the same time there is no regulatory oversight. So it does create its own challenges. So would you like to add a few comments to that? Because I thought you had some thoughts while he was talking about it.
Yeah, so, I actually, the challenge is that the smart contract can be the regulatory aspect itself. You don't need a regulator. So, if I had to take his first example where he talked about lending, in a village, if someone has got money and wants to lend to another person, today they can't do it. But if they're part of a decentralized finance network, which has a smart contract saying that you lend, but you can't charge more than this interest, right? It automatically addresses the issues that are there, right? And then, there are teams that can audit. The great thing about blockchain is that, you don't require an auditor. It's a self-auditing mechanism. So it can be done in a very innovative manner. Of course, his overseas remittances example was another interesting. But then you can also tokenize things, no? Today, if you take, if you just take the share market, you tokenize the share market. Right? Many more people could come in. I want to buy an MRF share, but one share is 1 lakh rupees, right? I can't afford it.
Fractionalization is also becomes possible.
So how do you actually just tokenize it and buy it, and a lot of other things. You can raise money, right? There are people who are raising money for a ship, fractionalization of ship. So there are many different applications in the financial world that can be looked at. And then the good thing is that this data doesn't go away. It's more traceable than cash. It's more traceable than securities. It's more auditable than anything. And you have chain analysis sitting in the audience. They can take out anything from any chain anywhere in the world. Right? They were recognized in the FATF report also. So look at it in a different manner.
True. No, actually, while you were talking about fractionalization, it just reminded me of another startup out of US. So they are helping communities in Uganda. They are off the grid completely in terms of what the ownership is. So number one is that the ownership of the land itself gets verified by the people around it. So that gets verified, and then they're able to raise money on that.
Done in Newtown, Calcutta.
Yeah, Calcutta also started doing that, absolutely. Yeah. But that still is much more advanced. Here is back of beyond in Uganda, where they are far away from technology. But here is something which is enabling that, and they're able to raise funds. So incredible example. So you talked about AI right at the beginning. So let me go back to that. And so AI is more about something which is extremely centralized, as I think it is. Then on the other side, we have blockchain, which is about decentralization. And then there is digital identities and other things. So how do you see AI getting incorporated in or impacting either the development of blockchain or certain applications within blockchain as we move along from here?
So actually, both technologies, last few years and next few years, both compound annual growth rates of 39-49%. Right. What is interesting is that both are complementary. What is your challenge with AI? Deep fakes.
True.
Blockchain solves that problem.
Right.
What is the biggest challenge in blockchain or in smart contracts? And AI can evaluate a smart contract and tell you if there's a flaw, etc. I'm just giving you two examples.
Sure,
there are multiple examples. Take the whole value chain. They both are very, very complementary, and they both will actually grow. You want to keep responsible AI, write smart contracts using blockchain. Then you heard one of the members of the advisory council to the Prime Minister saying that you need to have a manual override. Right. A smart contract is only a manual override. So actually both will grow, and as the world you take any application of AI to verify it or to enable it to be audited, you develop a blockchain application. So both are very complementary. People are not, see what has happened is because of the hype for AI and the controversy over crypto, right? And especially the fall from the earlier highs of 70 to 17,000, and now of course the rebound is different. Blockchain and virtual digital assets took a back seat. You will see it again coming forward. You know, both of this world over will develop, and you know, you had the FTX and you had
we've had those
kind of things. But that's also happening in AI, more so.
Yeah.
Right? So I think both are complementary, and both, I'm sure, you know, Jumbo will have some AI applications coming out. I mean, EduBook is already talking of blockchain and AI integration. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, it has to be, I'm sure. So, Sachin, I'll come to you. Maybe one last question,
Sure.
and then we'll open up for the customers. Sorry, for the audience here. So you want to talk about so speed again. So there is speed, there's security, there's decentralization. I mean, that's the trilemma. Of course, it's not a law. It's a concept. But then we are improving on that, and that is what everybody's trying to solve for. So where do you see this going? And maybe in terms of different protocols, or you see layer one, of course, like what Sachin is doing here with layer one itself, you know, getting into that zone, or do you think still a predominance of L2s and others trying to, you know, come in externally and solve for these problems while deriving maybe security from the L1 chains? So any thoughts around that?
I think those thoughts are as wild as your imagination can go, right? When it comes to blockchain. The basic premise that blockchain solves is the trust issue, right? So whether you take example of Calcutta or you take an example of Uganda, right? Your trust issue is getting solved by either people or technology. Blockchain does that for you. Right? So you take away the question of whether this is right or wrong. Okay? And once you know what you're getting into is right, by somebody telling you it's right, then you don't need intermediaries, right? Well, right? In case of banking and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm saying. In today's world where you don't know, and as we go more into deep fakes and AIs and it gets smarter and smarter and smarter, the biggest question is going to be, is what you're seeing or understanding or reading, right, the correct thing, right? A lot. So Dr. Chenoy talked about going back and Times of India paying you to read the news, right? I would never do that. I would never read news on social, whether it's on Times of India website or not, or any other blog, right? I have gone back to the newspaper because I can't trust anything that's written on social media in terms of news. Right? How can you wake up in the morning and read a social blog or something on the news site and believe it's the right? Right? So blockchain takes that away. If you can start, I read newspaper because I know what's written on it is correct. Right? Because I trust the brand, right? Times of India. I know that whatever is written on their site or published on their site or is on the paper is correct. Right? So you read that and you believe that because you trust Times of India. So if you start trusting Jumbo infrastructure in terms of information that's getting validated, all of a sudden you go in and you say, हाँ यार अगर जंबो वाला बोल रहे हैं कि ये उषा का प्रोडक्ट है तो है, right? So you take that fear out, correct? So that's one trust piece that I keep on talking about, and which is the inherent blockchain functionality or attribute or whatever you want to call it, right? Now let's come to the other piece. You said how soon, right? And I've mentioned it to Sachin. The success of Jumbo and blockchain would only happen, and this has happened in AI, right? So you could go to ChatGPT or thousands of other organizations that have built specialized products on top of that, right? So I don't go to ChatGPT when I need an answer. I go to that specialized AI tool to get that answer because they further enhance that capability, right? And you get the right answers because they would understand the financial terms more than ChatGPT or legal terms more than ChatGPT. I'm not saying that ChatGPT won't, but the more specialized and more accurate in terms of information and what paths. So that's what I think would happen with them also, and we've seen that a good example today of that, right? So as it starts opening up in terms of applications, right? We saw that. So when we saw that in case of our mobile apps, right? As soon as the world started opening up, APIs started getting out there, that universe just grew exponentially, right? So for us to start using that, and like I said, I hope he's able to get that 6 paisa down to 2 paisa or 3 paisa, right? The more usage will be, the better it will happen, right? Because it's all about economies of scale at the end of the day. So I think that's where it's going to go.
No, true that. So I think if you're unable to trust anything that you see in a digital form in terms of news or anything, I think we need to get into a tokenization aspect of that, and maybe approach through an app which actually certifies that what you're seeing is really the real deal, basically.
So, let me close by giving an example. I wish I could show my WhatsApp. So I was looking at a video on WhatsApp, right? This guy is hitting tennis balls from the far end of the court, right? And that every shot it's getting into a small, I think it was a shuttlecock, not a ball, and it was a shuttlecock, and this guy was playing badminton and was getting into that shuttlecock holder, right?
Till they show you a different camera.
And then they show you different angle, and actually he was hitting it, and somebody was standing on the other side and dropping the shuttlecocks in the box, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about, trust, right? Until you saw that, he looked amazingly brilliant in what he was doing, and then all of a sudden you realize what was going on in there.
No, absolutely. So thank you so much for those points. So let's open up to the audience. If you all have any questions, please feel free. It's a great opportunity here. Go ahead, sir. You need a mic?
So recently I had the pleasure to meet the Bishnari Foundation, who is building the India AI app. So my question is regarding that they have a concern that problem is that AI need a very large set of data to work on, and to handle that, whether this data is biased or not, will the blockchain be the part of that? Because in future, that's a basic problem, that data marketplace is still a concern for most of the AI.
So, I think I'll just take that answer in a different context. So one of the things that you require for validating large language models is computing power and, and energy, right? Now, there is a company in India that has created a decentralized solution to make use of all the spare capacity of the computing power of all the computers, right, and make it available centrally. So he's actually solved for this. He actually, a pretty interesting thing. So all the, if you're putting your computer and you're only using X percentage of your hard disk or your computing power, you can get onto the net, and you can actually earn back the amount of money that you have spent on the computer going forward, and it will solve the AI problem. So there are many things. Like I said, these two technologies are complementary going forward, right?
You know what? Let me just add to that. I was sitting and listening to what he was saying, and I'm thinking my compute power in my organization, in terms of laptops and desktops, right, is significant. And a laptop is probably just sits idle, even though people are there for 8 hours. I spend most of my times in meeting, and my laptop is sitting there in the office, right? If I can put that on the grid and get somebody to use it obviously in the bounds of security, right, I can actually make up the money I spend on technology and give something back to. So when you start thinking about this, the options are tremendous, right? Blockchain, so AI needs data to solve the problem. For you to solve the problem, you need energy, and he was talking about sustainability, right? So you have to really find that balance, right, financially, to be able to make it viable, that you have the data and the processing power that will work to help you make a decision, right? And that's all it is about.
Does that answer? All right, thank you. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the insight, and I think the question is going to be kind of related to what I'm working on, which is called Report to Earn, which is something I'm in the early stages of building. Let me start off with the question, and then I can tell you a little bit more. But the question is, what is the difference between truth and trust? Because it might sound similar. Let's talk about it fundamentally, and then let's try and get it back into the AI and the blockchain context.
Let me take a stab. Very philosophical question, but and I'm not a doctor in any shape or form, and probably young compared to a lot of people that are sitting here. But let me take a stab at it. Right? Truth is what you believe to be true. Correct? Now, you're saying I'm reporting to earn, correct? I'm building a report to earn. Now, if I believe that, that's truth, right? Now, trust is all about, do you believe that truth coming out of that somebody is trustable, right? So you're saying it and I'm believing it, it's true. Do I trust you? Not yet, correct? There's got to be a reason for me to trust. Now, if blockchain told me that report to earn, what you're saying is correct, then that trust factor comes in, and all of a sudden that 1% question that I might have in my mind becomes reality, right? Or the truth, right? So like I gave an example. What newspaper tells me, I believe it's true because I trust the brand and the paper, right? I hope I'm able to explain that. Not an easy explanation, but I'm able to explain it.
Thank you so much. Any other thoughts on that? Would love to, not to hog the time here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Dr. Gupta have already mentioned. Actually, trust in the blockchain, we have a concept called single source of truth or the single proof of trust. Actually, if you know that Salman Khan movie where he was talking about किसी पे ट्रस्ट मत करो, सिर्फ ट्रस्ट पे ट्रस्ट करो. दैट वाज हिज डायलॉग. मैं आई फॉरगेट द नेम ऑफ द मूवी. तो ये यही चीज़ एक्चुअली. एंड ट्रस्ट जो ब्लॉकचेन करती है, दे फाउंड आउट फ्रॉम द डेटा ए सिंगल सोर्स ऑफ ट्रूथ. सो एंड दैट इज द ट्रस्ट, सिंगल सोर्स ऑफ, एंड दैट दे डू थ्रू कंसेंसस बिल्डिंग. दैट इज अनदर एट्रीब्यूट ऑफ ब्लॉकचेन. तो वही है जो जीरो ट्रस्ट बोलते हैं. जीरो ट्रस्ट मीन्स किसी पे ट्रस्ट मत करो लेकिन ट्रस्ट पे ट्रस्ट करो, जो डॉक्टर गुप्ता ने बोला वही है.
And just to give some context, I think the thinking behind it is that we live, again, minus the technology part, in a society where if enough people say something is the truth, it becomes the truth. Unfortunately, and that's kind of going back to your social media. If enough loud voices.
I agree to that, right?
Yeah.
Right? But then those enough people you make believe are working as a blockchain, right? They're telling you that they know this is truth because they have either experienced it, they've learned it over a period of years, and they just simply know it because somebody else have told them, right? So in retro to that, I always say, if you say a lie 100 times, it becomes truth, right? But the person you're saying that lie to has to believe you're telling the truth, which is an art itself. Right? So now, what's the truth or not? Until you know you can trust somebody, you will never know whether it's truth or not truth. And that's where I gave an example of the newspaper, right? Just because they're telling me, and they have said this over 100 years, 365 days, how many times, you make believe that whatever they're saying is truth. Right? Because of the number of times they've said the same thing over and over again.
Fantastic, sir. Yeah. So again, I'll hand over the mic. So what I'm trying to solve is using both crowdsourcing, which is actual human beings, combined with the blockchain in order to basically create unbiased, multi-source of the truth with not having people related to any kind of affiliation, bias, gender, etc. But I'll leave it at that. Don't want to pitch over here. Thank you.
Thank you. You already did actually, but that's...
No, great question actually. I think, so while everybody's truth might be different, what you're doing is aggregating that truth into one single truth. That's what we're trying to do, right? Awesome, thank you. So I think you got to go. So thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. It was a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you so much. Would like to extend a warm and sincere thank you for all the esteemed panelists, and thank you for sharing your resourceful insight and favoring the community and in a way favoring the future of India. And thank you for presenting your questions as well. Now, to capture and honor this moment, would like to ask the co-founder of Jumbo Blockchain, Mr. Vijay Kumar, to please present the memento to our esteemed panelists. Put your hands together for Mr. Vijay Kumar. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful insight. And it's
Join us on Jumbo Blockchain.